Most fans remember Arnold Schwarzenegger's iconic Harley-Davidson Fat Boy from Terminator 2, but few recall the red Honda motorcycle that started it all. The 1984 original featured a customized Honda CB750 that was actually 12 years old when filming began, had been modified from stock specs, and was completely destroyed during production. This wasn't just any bike, it was riding the wave of a motorcycle revolution that had changed the industry forever. From its accidental casting to its connection with Japanese nickname culture, the stuntman who broke his foot filming it, and the irony that Honda never officially provided it, the CB750's 2 minutes of screen time hide some of the strangest stories in action cinema. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about Terminator's 1984 Honda CB750. Fact 1. The bike was actually 12 to 15 years old. When you watch The Terminator and see Arnold Schwarzenegger riding that red motorcycle through the streets of Los Angeles, you might assume the production used a brand new 1984 model Honda. But here's the twist. The bike was actually a 1972 Honda CB750 K2, which means it was already 12 years old by the time filming started in 1984. This wasn't some minor detail either, because the age of the motorcycle tells us something interesting about how the film was made and what bikes were available to the production team at the time. The specific model, the CB750 K2, came from Honda's second generation of the legendary CB750 line that had revolutionized motorcycling just a few years earlier. By 1984, this particular bike was already considered somewhat outdated in the rapidly evolving world of motorcycles, especially compared to the newer sport bikes and touring machines that were dominating showrooms. The 1972 model still had the classic four-cylinder engine and the distinctive four exhaust pipes that made the CB750 so recognizable, but it represented an earlier era of motorcycle design. What makes this even more interesting is that the production didn't just grab any random old bike off the street. Someone had to specifically source a 12-year-old Honda, then customize it with that distinctive red paint and black cafe racer fairing you see in the movie. This suggests the filmmakers were either working with what they could afford on the movie's modest $6.4 million budget, or they specifically wanted an older bike that could be modified and ultimately destroyed without worrying about damaging expensive new equipment. Either way, the Terminator ended up riding a machine that was closer in age to the 1970s than the mid-80s, giving the film an unintentional vintage quality that actually fits perfectly with the gritty, low-budget aesthetic that James Cameron was going for. Fact 2. Honda didn't officially provide it. In 1984, when James Cameron was making the Terminator, product placement deals weren't nearly as common or organized as they are today. If this film had been made now, Honda would probably have shipped a brand new 1984 model directly to the set, complete with branding agreements and promotional tie-ins. But that's not what happened at all. Instead, the production team got their motorcycle from a local custom shop, and Honda had absolutely nothing to do with providing the bike for the film. This is actually mentioned in the movie's credits, where they thank a customizing shop for supplying the motorcycle rather than Honda itself. This explains a lot about why the bike looks the way it does and why it was already 12 years old when filming started. The custom shop provided what they had available, which happened to be a 1972 CB750 that they had already modified with that distinctive black cafe racer fairing and bright red paint job. It wasn't chosen for any particular reason related to the story or because Honda wanted their latest model featured in the movie. The production simply needed a motorcycle that looked tough and intimidating, and this customized older model fit the bill without costing Honda a single marketing dollar. What makes this even more interesting is that by 1984, the CB750 was actually pretty outdated compared to what Honda was producing at the time. The bike still had that original single overhead cam engine design from 1969, while newer models had moved on to more advanced technology. But because no official partnership existed with Honda, Cameron's team just worked with whatever the custom shop could offer them. This lack of corporate involvement meant the bike could be completely destroyed during filming without anyone from Honda's marketing department having a panic attack about damaging their brand's image. It was just another used motorcycle getting wrecked for the sake of making a great action scene. Fact 3. It was completely destroyed during filming. When most movie vehicles survive production and end up in museums or private collections, the Honda CB750 from the original Terminator met a very different fate. It was completely destroyed during filming and never made it past the wrap party. Unlike the iconic Harley-Davidson Fat Boy from Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which was carefully preserved, restored, and eventually sold at auction for $480,000 in 2018, the CB750 was sacrificed for the sake of authenticity in one of the film's most intense sequences. The bike met its end during the climactic tunnel chase scene where Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese are fleeing in a stolen pickup truck while the Terminator pursues them on the motorcycle. After Reese throws multiple pipe bombs at the relentless cyborg with no success, Sarah takes matters into her own hands and rams the Terminator sideways into the tunnel wall, causing both vehicles to crash violently. This wasn't movie magic with breakaway props or clever camera angles. The production actually destroyed both the motorcycle and the truck in a single take to capture the raw impact James Cameron wanted on screen. The irony is striking when you consider that the T2 Fat Boy spent years on display at the Milwaukee Harley-Davidson Museum, underwent a full professional restoration, and commanded a price that could buy several brand-new motorcycles today. Meanwhile, the exact fate of the destroyed CB750 remains unknown. It was either scrapped on set, hauled away as twisted metal, or possibly ended up in a Hollywood prop warehouse in pieces. No one kept track of it because at the time, nobody realized how iconic the Terminator franchise would become, or that this 2-minute motorcycle appearance would be remembered decades later. The CB750 was simply a working prop that served its purpose and was discarded, making it one of the most valuable pieces of movie history that no longer exists. Fact 4. A stuntman was blown off and broke his foot. When you watch the Terminator chase Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor through that dark tunnel while they're throwing pipe bombs at him, you're actually watching one of the most dangerous motorcycle stunts in the entire film, and it didn't go according to plan. The stuntman performing that sequence, Gene Hartline, ended up crashing the Honda CB750 and breaking his foot when the special effects team literally blew him off the motorcycle. This wasn't just a minor tumble or a controlled fall that went slightly wrong. The explosion was powerful enough to knock both rider and bike completely off course, resulting in a genuine injury that could have been much worse. Peter Kent, who was Arnold Schwarzenegger's primary stunt double throughout the Terminator franchise, later revealed in an interview that he was actually grateful he didn't have to perform that particular stunt himself. Kent admitted he was still a newbie to the stunt world during the 1984 production, and looking back, he said the pipe bomb tunnel sequence might have ended much worse for him given his inexperience at the time. The fact that a veteran like Hartline got injured doing it shows just how risky the stunt really was. The scene was filmed in downtown Los Angeles' 2nd Street Tunnel, which runs between Hill Street and Figueroa Street. The production team needed to create the effect of Kyle Reese's homemade pipe bombs exploding near the Terminator as he pursued them on the motorcycle, and they weren't using digital effects or subtle pyrotechnics. These were real explosions timed to go off as Hartline rode the CB750 through the tunnel at speed. The combination of genuine explosive charges, a moving motorcycle, limited visibility in the tunnel, and the pressure to get the shot right created an incredibly dangerous environment. When one of those explosions went off closer than planned or with more force than expected, it sent Hartline and the bike tumbling. Despite the broken foot, the footage was dramatic enough that it made it into the final film, giving audiences one of the most intense chase sequences of 1980s action cinema. Fact 5. The bike had custom cafe racer modifications. If you pause the tunnel chase scene and look closely at the Terminator's motorcycle, you'll notice something interesting. The Honda CB750 in the film doesn't look anything like the stock model that rolled off Honda's assembly line. The production team had the bike heavily customized with a sleek black cafe racer-style fairing mounted on the front, giving it a more aggressive aerodynamic appearance that was perfect for a relentless killing machine from the future. The entire bike was also painted in a striking bright red color that made it pop on screen during those dark nighttime chase sequences through the streets and tunnels of Los Angeles. This combination of modifications created what motorcycle enthusiasts would call a hybrid cruiser cafe mix, blending the touring comfort of a standard bike with the stripped-down, performance-oriented aesthetic of the cafe racer movement that had started decades earlier in Britain. The modifications weren't just cosmetic either. The custom fairing completely changed the bike's profile, making it look more modern and menacing than the standard 1972 CB750 it was based on. Stock CB750S came with either no fairing at all or a very minimal windscreen, along with the iconic 4 separate exhaust pipes that made the bike instantly recognizable to motorcycle fans. By adding that cafe fairing and repainting it red instead of keeping one of Honda's original colors like candy gold or blue, the customization shop essentially disguised the bike's true age and identity. Most viewers watching the film in 1984 would have assumed they were looking at a contemporary motorcycle rather than a 12-year-old machine that had been modified to look the part. The film's credits mention that a customizing shop provided the motorcycle, which explains why Honda wasn't involved and why they chose to extensively modify an older, cheaper used bike rather than feature a brand new model. This kind of custom work was actually pretty common in the early 1980s, when cafe racer culture was experiencing a revival and shops specialized in transforming standard Japanese motorcycles into personalized performance machines. Fact 6. It originated the term Nanahan in Japan. When the Honda CB750 hit the Japanese market in 1969, it didn't just become a best-selling motorcycle. It literally created a new word in the Japanese language. The bike became so massively popular and influential in Japan that it gave birth to the term Nanahan, which translates to 7.5 in Japanese, referring to the 750 cubic centimeter displacement. What started as Honda's internal development codename quickly spread beyond the factory walls and became the standard nickname that every Japanese rider used when talking about any 750 cubic centimeters motorcycle, regardless of the manufacturer. The term breaks down simply in Japanese. Nana means 7, and Han means half, as in half of 100, which equals 50. So Nanahan became the casual shorthand for 750, and it stuck so powerfully that even today, decades later, Japanese motorcycle enthusiasts still use this nickname. In fact, the CB750 became so synonymous with the Nanahan category that when other manufacturers like Kawasaki, Suzuki, and Yamaha released their own 750cc models throughout the 1970s and beyond, they were all called Nanahans too. Honda had essentially branded an entire displacement class. The cultural impact was enormous in Japan, where the CB750 led a motorcycle boom throughout the 1970s and helped establish 750cc as a kind of status symbol among Japanese riders. Because of voluntary manufacturer restrictions at the time, 750 cubic centimeters was the maximum displacement allowed for domestic market motorcycles in Japan until 1990, which made the Nanahan the ultimate performance bike you could legally own and ride. The name became so embedded in Japanese motorcycle culture that in 2012, Motorcyclist magazine named the CB750 the motorcycle of the century, recognizing not just its technical innovations, but its massive cultural footprint. Even the Terminator's beat-up 12-year-old customized red CB750 from 1984 was riding on the legacy of a bike that had literally renamed an entire category of motorcycles in its home country. Fact 7. It was the world's first production superbike. When the Honda CB750 debuted in 1969, it earned a title that had never been used before in the motorcycle industry: superbike. This wasn't just clever marketing. The bike genuinely deserved the name because it brought together a combination of features that no other production motorcycle had ever offered at the same time. The CB750 packed a 736 cubic centimeter transverse inline 4-cylinder engine that produced 67 horsepower, which was more power than a 1,300 cubic centimeter Harley-Davidson and a full 15% more than the brand new BSA Rocket 3 from Britain. But the engine was only part of the story. Honda also equipped it with the world's first hydraulic disc brake on a production street motorcycle, a 5-speed transmission, and an electric starter, all features that were either rare or completely unheard of on affordable bikes at the time. The disc brake alone was revolutionary because it came from racing technology that had never been mass-produced for everyday riders. When project leader Yoshiro Harada presented 2 brake options to company founder Soichiro Honda, a safe, proven drum brake or a risky, cutting-edge disc brake that might delay production, Honda didn't hesitate and chose the disc. The entire package sold for $1,495, which was less than half the price of comparable British bikes that offered far less performance and technology. American Honda dealers literally burst into applause when they heard the price announced at a Las Vegas convention in early 1969. The term superbike stuck because the CB750 didn't just compete with existing motorcycles. It completely redefined what riders could expect from a production bike, combining race-level performance with Japanese reliability and an accessible price point that British and American manufacturers simply couldn't match. Fact 8, it only had 2 minutes of screen time. Here's something that might surprise you about the Terminator's motorcycle chase. The Honda CB750 appears for barely more than 2 minutes of actual screen time in the entire film. For a bike that's become such an iconic part of the original Terminator's action sequences, it's almost shocking how little time it actually spends on camera. The chase scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger's T-800 pursues Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese through the streets and tunnels of Los Angeles feels longer and more memorable than it actually is. But when you break down the footage, the motorcycle appears in just a brief segment of the film's 90-minute runtime. What makes this even stranger is that most of those 2 minutes consist of shaky camera shots, quick cuts showing the bike from a distance, and reaction shots of Linda Hamilton and Michael Biehn inside the pickup truck they're driving. The actual clear shots where you can see the red Honda CB750 with its distinctive cafe racer fairing and 4 exhaust pipes are surprisingly rare. Director James Cameron used rapid editing and tight framing to create the sense of relentless pursuit without actually showing the motorcycle in crisp detail for very long. Most viewers remember the tension of the scene and the image of Arnold on the bike firing his weapon, but they're often remembering the feeling of the sequence rather than extended shots of the actual motorcycle itself. This limited screen time also explains why so many people have completely forgotten about the CB750 over the years, with some fans even convinced that the first Terminator film didn't feature any motorcycle at all. The bike was essentially reduced to a blur in the action, overshadowed first by the more dramatic moments of the film and later by the much more prominent Harley-Davidson Fat Boy that Arnold rides in Terminator 2. For a motorcycle that was completely destroyed during filming and represented such an important part of motorcycle history, its brief appearance makes it one of cinema's most underappreciated vehicles. Fact 9. Sarah Connor also rode a Honda. While most people remember Arnold Schwarzenegger's menacing ride through Los Angeles, they completely miss the fact that Linda Hamilton's character, Sarah Connor, was also riding a Honda in the film. Before her life gets turned upside down by a time-traveling cyborg assassin, Sarah is shown riding a Honda Elite 125 scooter to her waitressing job at a restaurant called Big Jeff's. This little scooter has one of the coolest features you'd find on any motorcycle in 1984, which was a retractable pop-up headlight that would flip up when you turned it on and fold back down when you turned it off. The Honda Elite series was brand new at the time, having just been introduced in 1983, making Sarah's scooter one of the first models available to consumers. The pop-up headlight wasn't just a gimmick either, as it was actually the first Honda motorcycle ever produced with this feature, and it gave the little scooter a futuristic look that fit perfectly with the film's science fiction aesthetic. What makes this even more interesting is that neither Honda motorcycle in the film was officially provided by the Honda Motor Company, which means the Terminator ended up being an accidental showcase for two completely different Honda products without any kind of product placement deal or corporate sponsorship. Sarah's cute little commuter scooter and the Terminator's intimidating cafe racer represent two opposite ends of Honda's motorcycle lineup, from the friendly everyday rider that made motorcycling accessible to regular people, to the performance machine that had revolutionized the industry 15 years earlier. The contrast between these two bikes actually mirrors the film's story perfectly, with Sarah starting out as an ordinary waitress on her modest scooter before being thrust into an extraordinary situation where she has to face off against a killer riding a much more powerful machine. It's a detail that most viewers never consciously notice, but it adds another layer to how the film uses vehicles to tell its story about regular people caught up in extraordinary circumstances. Fact 10. It cost less than $1,500 new. When Honda unveiled the CB750 at a dealer meeting in Las Vegas in January of 1969, the company's American president Kihachiro Kawashima initially announced a price of just $12.95, which caused such a massive reaction that he immediately raised it to $14.95 on the spot. Even at the higher price, American Honda dealers burst into thunderous applause because they understood what this meant for the market. At a time when comparable British motorcycles like the Triumph Trident and BSA Rocket 3 were selling for between $2,800 and $4,000, Honda was offering a technologically superior machine for less than half the price, and in some cases, just over a third of what competitors charged. The CB750 wasn't just cheaper, it was objectively better in almost every measurable way, featuring innovations like a front disc brake, electric start, and a 5-speed transmission that British manufacturers couldn't match at any price point. The impact on the British motorcycle industry was devastating and immediate. Companies like Triumph, BSA, and Norton had dominated the large motorcycle market for decades, but they simply couldn't compete with Honda's combination of Japanese manufacturing efficiency, relatively cheap labor, and superior engineering. Even after shipping the bikes halfway around the world from Japan to America, Honda still undercut British prices by massive margins, while offering more power, better reliability, and cutting-edge technology. The CB750 put out 67 horsepower, which was more than the largest 1,300 cubic centimeter Harley-Davidson and 15% more than BSA's supposedly all-conquering 750 cubic centimeter Rocket 3 from the same era. British manufacturers tried to respond, but their outdated production methods, frequent oil leaks, and reliability problems made them unable to compete. Within just a few years, the once mighty British motorcycle industry had collapsed, with most manufacturers either going bankrupt or becoming shadows of their former selves. The $14.95 price tag wasn't just affordable, it was the price point that changed motorcycling forever. Fact 11. The first 7,414 were sandcast collector's items. When Honda first unveiled the CB750 at the Tokyo Motor Show in 1968, nobody knew if it would succeed. The company was taking a massive gamble on this revolutionary four-cylinder motorcycle, and they weren't confident enough to invest in expensive die-cast molds for the engine cases. Instead, Honda used a gravity casting technique for the first production run, which created engine cases with a distinctly rough, sandy texture. These early bikes became known as sandcast models, and today they represent the holy grail for CB750 collectors around the world. Honda initially estimated they would sell around 1,500 bikes per year, which seemed optimistic at the time. But when American dealers saw the CB750 at a convention in Las Vegas in early 1969, they burst into spontaneous applause at the announcement of its $14.95 price tag. Orders flooded in so fast that Honda quickly revised their production estimates to 1,500 per month, then 3,000 per month. At that point, they switched to smoother die-cast engine cases to keep up with demand, ending the sandcast era after just 7,414 motorcycles. You can identify a genuine sandcast model by several unique features. The engine cases have that characteristic rough finish instead of the smooth surface of later models. The clutch cover is held on by 10 bolts instead of the 11 used on later bikes. The gas tank has distinctive wrinkles below the filler cap, the fender edges are straight cut rather than rounded, and the mirrors attach with nuts on the back of the stems. Many of these early bikes have had their cases replaced over the decades due to broken chains or other damage, making an original numbers-matching Sandcast CB750 extremely rare. Today, a perfect Sandcast model in Concours condition can fetch $44,500 or more at auction. One prototype even sold for $218,792 at a 2018 auction in the United Kingdom. Meanwhile, regular die-cast CB750 models from the same era typically sell for $6,000 to $13,000. That means the Sandcast bikes command prices 125% higher than their die-cast siblings, all because Honda wasn't sure their revolutionary motorcycle would actually sell. Fact 12. James Cameron filmed the pipe bomb scene in the 2nd Street Tunnel. The iconic motorcycle chase where Kyle Reese desperately throws homemade pipe bombs at the relentless Terminator was filmed in one of downtown Los Angeles' most recognizable tunnels, and the location choice was anything but random. James Cameron selected the 2nd Street Tunnel, which runs underground between Hill Street and Figueroa Street in the heart of downtown LA, specifically because its enclosed space would amplify the explosions and create dramatic lighting effects that perfectly suited the film's dark, claustrophobic tone. The tunnel's curved concrete walls and overhead lighting gave the sequence an almost post-apocalyptic feel that echoed the future war scenes, making it the perfect hunting ground for a cybernetic assassin chasing down his targets. During filming, the production crew had to work incredibly fast because they didn't have official permits for many of their downtown locations, a guerrilla filmmaking approach that Cameron frequently employed throughout production. The tunnel sequence required multiple takes as stunt coordinator Gene Hartline piloted the red Honda CB750 while pyrotechnic teams detonated the pipe bombs at carefully timed intervals, creating massive fireballs that lit up the tunnel's interior. The explosions were real practical effects, not miniatures or later additions, which meant the stunt work was genuinely dangerous and required precise coordination between the motorcycle rider, the actors in the pickup truck, and the effects crew. What makes this location even more interesting is that it appears the crew entered from the Figueroa Street side heading east, based on the tunnel's distinctive architecture visible in the final cut. The 2nd Street Tunnel remains a popular filming location to this day and is instantly recognizable to Los Angeles locals, though most people who drive through it daily have no idea they're passing through one of the Terminator's most memorable action sequences. The practical, on-location shooting gave the scene an authentic, gritty quality that would have been impossible to recreate on a studio backlot. Fact 13. It was overshadowed so completely, people forgot it existed. The Honda CB750 from the original Terminator suffered one of the strangest fates in movie vehicle history. It was so completely overshadowed by the sequel's Harley-Davidson Fat Boy that many people genuinely believe the Fat Boy appeared in both films, while others don't remember any motorcycle from the first movie at all. This wasn't just a case of casual viewers mixing up details. Even dedicated fans of the franchise have been surprised to learn that Arnold Schwarzenegger rode a completely different bike in 1984, and it wasn't even a Harley. The CB750's brief 2-minute appearance, combined with mostly shaky camera work and quick cuts during the chase sequence, meant that very few viewers got a clear look at what the Terminator was actually riding, and by the time Terminator 2 came out in 1991 with its heavily promoted Harley scenes and iconic canal jump, the Honda had essentially been erased from collective memory. Some fans have speculated that this cultural amnesia happened because the sequel's marketing so heavily featured the Fat Boy that it retroactively overwrote people's memories of the original, while others point out that the CB750 simply didn't get the same hero shots or dramatic close-ups that made the Harley so memorable. The situation became so widespread that online forums and motorcycle enthusiast communities regularly see posts from confused fans asking whether the same Harley appeared in both movies, with longtime Terminator followers having to correct the misconception and point out that the first film featured a vintage Honda instead. Even automotive and motorcycle publications occasionally make this mistake in retrospective articles about famous movie vehicles, listing only the Fat Boy when discussing motorcycles from the Terminator franchise. The CB750 has slowly begun gaining recognition again in recent years as vintage Honda prices have climbed and motorcycle collectors have started seeking out replicas of the Terminator bike, but for decades it remained one of cinema's most forgotten vehicles despite appearing in one of the most influential action films ever made. Fact 14. Dick Mann won Daytona on one in 1970. Just a year after the Honda CB750 hit American showrooms, it proved it wasn't just a reliable street bike. It was a genuine performance machine capable of winning at the highest level of motorcycle racing. In March of 1970, veteran rider Dick Mann piloted a race-prepped CB750 to victory at the Daytona 200-mile race, which was arguably the most prestigious motorcycle race in the United States at the time. This wasn't some minor regional event or a publicity stunt with a rigged outcome. It was a legitimate win against serious competition that included factory-backed teams and experienced racers who had dominated the circuit for years. Mann's victory was especially meaningful because he had to hold off early challenges from former world champion Mike Halewood, who would later be inducted into the AMA Motorcycle Hall of Fame, as well as rising stars Gene Romero and Gary Nixon, both of whom would also eventually earn their places in the Hall of Fame. The fact that Mann ran strong all day and managed to fend off this caliber of competition demonstrated that Honda's engineering wasn't just about comfort and reliability. The bike had genuine racing DNA. Honda had actually created a special works racer version called the CR750 specifically for competition, but the core engine and design were directly related to the production CB750 that regular customers could buy at their local dealer. The timing of this victory was perfect for Honda's marketing efforts, as it came right when the company was trying to convince American riders that Japanese motorcycles could compete with the beloved British and American brands. Mann's win at Daytona sent customers running to Honda dealerships across the country, and it effectively silenced critics who had dismissed the CB750 as just another import bike. Of all his national wins throughout his distinguished career, Mann himself later said that the 1970 Daytona 200 victory was perhaps the most fulfilling, which speaks volumes about how significant this race was for both the rider and the motorcycle that made it possible. Fact 15. It was developed in under a year. The Honda CB750 that appeared in the Terminator represented one of the most remarkable engineering achievements in motorcycle history. And what makes it even more incredible is that Honda developed the entire bike in less than 12 months. In early 1968, Honda hadn't even decided on the basic engine configuration for what would become the CB750. Yet, by October of that same year, they were unveiling a nearly production-ready prototype at the Tokyo Motor Show. This wasn't just a concept bike or a design study, it was a fully functional motorcycle that included revolutionary features like a 4-cylinder engine, disc brakes, and an electric starter, all of which required extensive testing and refinement. The project, which Honda internally called Project 300, started with a core team of only about 20 engineers under the leadership of Yoshiro Harada. They were working against an incredibly tight deadline because American Honda had been asking for a large displacement sports bike to compete in the crucial U.S. market, where sales had begun dropping in 1966. Harada's design brief was ambitious. He wanted a 4-cylinder motor that evoked Honda's Grand Prix racers, stable cruising at speeds up to 100 miles per hour, brakes capable of repeated high-speed stops, and minimal vibration to reduce rider fatigue. Within just 6 months, the team had prototyped a 4-cylinder motor and tested it in a CB450 chassis. One of Harada's final major decisions came down to the wire when he had to choose between proven drum brakes or the untested disc brake technology. He presented both options to company founder Soichiro Honda, explaining that the disc brake would work better but might delay production. Honda's response was direct and unhesitating. Well, of course we'll have to go with disc brakes. That decision, made under enormous time pressure, helped create the world's first mass-production motorcycle with a hydraulic disc brake. The speed of development was so remarkable that it set new standards for the entire motorcycle industry.